Hi guys, welcome to class. All right, for Tuesday, September 22nd, the first thing we went over was this quote of the day. So students kind of talked about with the quote that it's important to recognize everyone's small little actions and make sure we recognize people's accomplishments. We did talk about an example of a civilization living in a golden age. We talked about things like societies need to feel protected, they need to feel safe, they need to have good trading, natural resources, abundance of wealth. Any of those are suitable answers that even in today's society, we need all of those things in order to be in a golden age. Okay, then we went to our assignment page, ideas and technology spreading. So for this one, we went through this slideshow. For warm up, we talked about it today, how our ideas and technology spread. We talked about social media, that most things in today's terms are usually spread through social media like Instagram or Facebook, and that's how we share ideas. So we looked at this Google Doc. Oops, wrong one. One second. Okay, and as a class, we kind of filled this in. So looking at each source, you have to examine what is one positive and one negative thing of how technology or ideas are being spread. Okay, so for source one, notice how on my screen it is blank. And the reason being is, let me see if I can pull this up. The reason being, if you go into the slideshow, so it's slide 4 for source 1, there is a video. Okay, so you have to watch this video. So you click on this blue link and it should take you to Khan Academy for the Silk Road. So you do have to watch that. In class, we did not watch it together because of sound issues. So I do expect everyone to watch that on their own. When you are watching it, please try to figure out what is one positive and good thing about the Silk Road. So then as a class, we went to this second source. Notice how I do put descriptions or I put questions on the slideshow. That is to help you. A lot of those kind of give you prompts or they give you answers to kind of help you in case the picture itself is difficult. Okay, so for this one, this is a picture of Hernando Cortez when they were encountering the Aztecs. Okay, so again, trying to focus on how are ideas and technology being spread in this battle scene? And then what are positive and negatives for that? So the one class figured out that with source 2, one of the positive was that two cultures are learning about one another. So looking at this, we have the Aztecs who are dressed in a lot of tribal gears. You have drums over here, their temples. And then the Spanish is covered in metal and battle shields. And notice how they're using clubs and hammers. So the positive is two cultures, two societies do get to encounter each other for the first time. That's a big deal, and that's a positive. The negative that we came up with was obviously ideas are being forced. That because it is a battle, that obviously the Spanish are going to be forcing the Aztecs into eventually their religion. It doesn't show religion, but eventually we talked about in class, it will force their religion. Okay. So again, at the end, take a picture of my screen, pause it if you need to copy any of this down. Source 3. Okay, so that was source 2. Source 3 is about Thanksgiving. So we kind of read along this passage. It's going to talk about a Native American named Squanto. I'm going to kind of skim it to get to the meat of it. That Squanto was a Wapano who had experience with other settlers in New English. Squanto helped the settlers grow corn and use fish to fertilize their fields. After several meetings, a formal agreement was made between the settlers and native people, and in March 1621, they joined together to protect each other from tribes. So this class kind of talked about one of the positives. There was several. Was the first one was protection, that they kind of joined forces, the Pilgrims and the Indians, to protect one another from other tribes. The other big one was the ideas. That ideas are being shared. So things such as how to farm. That Native Americans, that was a big part of their culture. They worshiped. They had their own god devoted to corn. So showing these pilgrims how to use fish to fertilize was farming. So that was huge. So that was an idea that was passed through protection, through laws. One of the negatives, which a lot of people struggled with, was learning a new language that we kind of talked about. Squanto had to learn English. Notice how pilgrims did not have to learn the English of the Native Americans. So already you kind of see evidence of pilgrims kind of forcing the Native Americans to convert to being more European, which is never, it's always good to learn a new language, but it eventually is going to become a negative. Okay. So source 4. Source 4 is broken up into 2 slides because I wanted to show one positive, one negative. So with this one, it is a map of the trans-Saharan trade. And in the key, it says spreading of Islam in Africa. And it's all these different red lines and colors to show how fast Islam was spreading. So that one's kind of point blank. It's kind of an easy one. It's straightforward. So one positive was spreading of Islam, spreading of religion through trading. That trading is very, very peaceful. We can trade ideas and technologies even now through trading. You don't hear about it as much, but we do that. So back in the day, Africa was really big about trading ideas and concepts, especially religion. Okay, so then we look at the next slide, which again is part 2 of source 4. And we talked about this main word. It says some major Spanish missions. So we kind of talked about the word mission. So in this example, we talked about that the Spanish were really living in Mexico because they just conquered the Aztecs. And then they started going north into what we now call the U.S. territories. And they were going on these missions, and it's where we get the word missionary from, that they were trying to convert. So the Spanish tried to go on these missions to force people into Christianity, that they were going into the Native American tribes that lived in those regions, trying to convert them by force. So we also talked about kind of notice similar language, that one way to have ideas spread is through force. You're going to hear that word a lot. Force, force, force. But that's usually always a negative. And then on the positive side, you're always going to hear things like religion, culture, trading, things that are much more peaceful. Okay, then source 5. Source 5. Again, there are 2 slides. We first have this quote, just to kind of get your mindset, is you can never cross the ocean until you have the courage to lose sight of the shore, which is by Christopher Columbus. So we're going to really focus on Columbus. Okay, so the next slide is the negative. What is happening in this picture? Why is the flag so important in this picture? And why do you think these people in the bushes, which I realize on your end might be a little bit harder to see, who are native to that land, the Indians, so what do you think they're thinking? Okay, so Columbus in this picture is basically coming up with his flag, which is the Spanish flag for the time, and just claiming the land. So for one of the negatives that we put is Columbus is simply taking the land by claiming it. Eventually he will use more force, but originally Columbus just kind of went up and was like, this is mine, and just simply took it, which spread ideas. It's kind of harder. We talked about in one class, there is a man that looks more like a priest in one corner, which was forcing these tribes that were native to the land to convert. But one of the positives, we have seen this map a couple of times, is the Columbian Exchange, which is where it got its name, Columbus, Columbian. And because he claimed this land, it then kind of promoted trading. So we listed some of the items that we saw on the map. So different items were traded, such as avocados, pumpkins, cattle, that even though he was taking over these lands from another group of people, which is negative, 2 cultures meeting, it did help promote trading. Okay, so that should be it for source 2 through 5. Please, reminder, do not forget about source 1. Source 1 is very important. You got to watch the video, which I cannot do on this, so please just watch the video. The last part is the most important part. It is called the formative performance task. You are to pick one of these sources, so source 5, source 3, whichever one you thought made sense. So pick the one that you liked the most. Okay, so I'm going to pick for myself, just to give you an example. I really like source 5. So I'm going to talk about in source 5, I have to give one positive and negative. So I would say source 5 shows Columbus negatively took land from people by simply claiming it for Spain. But positively, it promoted trading and we got different items across the world, such as avocado, pumpkins, cattle. So basically, you're kind of restating your source and what you wrote and just giving a little bit more detail. Okay, this is only about 2 to 3 sentences at most. I don't need something super elaborate, but you do need to write at least 2 to 3 sentences. Okay, it can't just be one word. Okay, so that's what you do for that. So again, pick a source, tell me one positive, one negative. Once you're done with that, you may turn it in. Okay, we then talked about our project that is due at the end of the week is on technologies, since that is our theme. So there is a rubric or a Google Doc rather that tells you what to do. You are to pick 6 of these inventions. Okay, it has to be from this list. And I am looking for when it was first invented. So when you search things, for example, the compass, it's going to show you modern day examples because we still have a lot of these things today. So to help avoid that, I told the classes to kind of look for things or type questions as the first magnetic compass, the first. If you type that, that usually helps you with the answer. So you pick 6, you're going to do a slideshow. For every invention, you're going to answer these 5 questions. So you need a photo for each. So say you did compass, you need a photo for the compass. Say you do copper, you need a picture of copper. A lighthouse, you need a picture of a lighthouse. A brief description of what it is. Some things are common sense, like paper, we know what paper is. But things like the Shadoo, most people don't know what that is. So brief description of what is it. The importance of the invention, that why am I having you look up this specific invention? Where and when it was created. I am not looking for specific, it was invented March 12th. I'm looking for a general. What time? Was it 50 years ago? Was it 1,000 years ago? How long ago was it? And then the where. Again, I don't need specifics. I just need the general country. Was it Germany, China, Japan, Egypt? Where? And then how does it affect society? That all of these inventions affect us even now. So how does it affect us? The big question that was asked is slides. I do not care how many slides you do. That is up to you. Some people can do this in 8 to 10 slides. Some people can do it in 20. It is up to you. Please keep in mind I am reading it. So try not to make your font super small and make sure I'm able to read it. I also strongly encourage you for class on Thursday. I want people to share some of theirs. So if you can try to get it done by Thursday, I'd appreciate it. But you're not going to lose points or anything if you don't, because I realize you have other classes. So please, big classroom reminder, finish your project, finish the technology IDM that we just went over, and your questions of the day. Once you do that, you are done.